What if I told you that the worlds of the Thundermans and Henry Danger didn't just end, they quietly changed in ways no one was ready for? At first, it all felt like harmless, fun superpowers, secret identities, goofy villains, and nonstop jokes. But as we move closer to 2026, something unexpected begins to surface. The laughter starts hiding pressure, the Euro life starts creating cracks, and the characters we thought we knew begin to reveal completely different sides. What looked like a perfect balance between normal life and superhero chaos slowly turns into a story about identity, responsibility, and the cost of growing up. And once you notice these changes, it's impossible to ignore them. Max Thunderman. Max Thunderman began as the ultimate wildcard, a character who thrived on chaos and constantly flirted with the idea of becoming a villain. In the early days, his motivation was simple: prove he was powerful no matter the cost. His rivalry with Phoebe gave him purpose, but it also trapped him in a cycle of competition and rebellion. As time passed, especially approaching 2026, Max's journey became more internal. He wasn't fighting Phoebe anymore, he was fighting himself. The pressure to change, to be seen as good, started weighing on him in ways fans didn't expect. His humor remained, but behind it was a growing sense of reflection. By 2026, Max became one of the most complex characters. He wasn't defined by good or evil anymore, but by his struggle to find balance. His transformation showed that real growth doesn't come from flipping sides, it comes from understanding who you are beneath all the expectations. Phoebe Thunderman. Phoebe Thunderman was always the symbol of perfection, the ideal superhero who followed every rule and did everything right. Early on, she seemed untouchable, the kind of character who always had the answers. But over time, cracks started to show. The pressure of being perfect began to build, especially as her responsibilities increased. By the time we approach 2026, Phoebe's journey becomes less about being flawless and more about dealing with doubt. She starts questioning her own decisions, wondering if she's living for herself or for the expectations placed on her. This emotional shift made her more human and relatable. Her evolution proves that even the strongest heroes struggle internally. And sometimes the hardest battle isn't against villains, it's against the fear of not being enough. Billy Thunderman. Billy Thunderman always brought energy, speed, and humor into every situation. At first, he seemed like pure comic relief, someone who didn't take anything seriously. But as the story developed, fans began noticing something deeper. Billy's constant joking wasn't just for laughs, it was how he coped with the overwhelming nature of his world. By 2026, his role becomes surprisingly important. When tensions rise and emotions run high, Billy is often the one who brings balance back into the family. His positivity becomes a form of strength. His growth shows that even the most carefree people can carry hidden depth. Sometimes the ones making everyone laugh are the ones quietly holding everything together. Norah Thunderman. Norah Thunderman started off as fearless and bold, always ready to jump into action without hesitation. She loved her powers and embraced the excitement that came with them. However, as she grew older, the reality of responsibility began to settle in. Powers weren't just fun anymore, they required control, discipline, and awareness. By 2026, Nora's journey becomes one of maturity. She learns that strength isn't just about action, but about knowing when to act. Her confidence remains, but it's now guided by experience. Her transformation highlights a powerful message. Growing up means learning how to manage the very things that once made you feel unstoppable. Chloe Thunderman. Chloe Thunderman entered the story as a bundle of unpredictable energy, with powers that seemed impossible to control. At first, her abilities created chaos for comedic effect. But as time moved forward, her powers began to represent something bigger: potential without direction. By 2026, Chloe becomes a symbol of the future. Her journey is filled with uncertainty as she tries to understand abilities that even her older siblings struggle to guide. Her character reflects the idea that the next generation always faces new challenges. And sometimes those challenges are bigger than anything that came before. Hank Thunderman. Hank Thunderman was once the confident, fun-loving superhero dad who enjoyed reliving his glory days. But as his children grew, his role began to shift. He could no longer protect them the same way. By 2026, Hank faces the emotional challenge of letting go. He starts realizing that Being a hero isn't just about strength, it's about trusting others to find their own path. This transition adds depth to his character, showing a side of him that's more vulnerable and reflective. Barb Thunderman. Barb Thunderman always balanced strength with care, acting as the emotional anchor of the family. As time passed, her role became even more important. With her children facing bigger challenges, Barb stepped into a position of guidance and support. By 2026, she represents stability in a world that's constantly changing. Her calm presence helps keep the family grounded, even when everything feels uncertain. Her character shows that true strength often comes from patience and understanding. Henry Hart. Henry Hart began as an ordinary teenager who stumbled into an extraordinary life as Kid Danger. At first, the double life was exciting, but over time the pressure began to build. Keeping secrets, facing danger, and balancing friendships became overwhelming. By 2026, Henry's journey becomes more serious. He starts questioning how long he can maintain this life. His story shifts from adventure to responsibility, showing the true cost of being a hero. Ray Manchester, known as Captain Man, always seemed fearless and unstoppable. But as Henry grew, Ray's role changed. He became less of a solo hero and more of a mentor. By 2026, Ray begins to understand that his legacy isn't about his own strength, but about what he leaves behind. This realization adds emotional depth to his character, showing a more thoughtful side. Charlotte Page. Charlotte Page was always the brains behind the operation. Over time, her intelligence became essential to every mission. By 2026, she isn't just supporting the team, she's leading in her own way. Her growth shows that intelligence and strategy are just as important as physical strength. Jasper Dunlop. Jasper Dunlop started off as clueless and overly dramatic, but as the story progressed, his loyalty became clear. By 2026, he proves that even unlikely heroes can rise when needed. Piper Hart. Piper Hart began as loud and dramatic, often causing chaos, but as she matured, her personality gained depth. By 2026, she becomes more independent and self-aware. Mr. Hart. Jake Hart often seemed unaware of everything happening around him, but subtle hints suggest he understands more than he lets on. By 2026, his role feels more layered. Mrs. Hart. Chris Hart balances humor with emotional awareness. As the story evolves, she becomes more connected to her children's struggles. Gooch. Gooch added unpredictability and humor to every situation. By 2026, even smaller characters like him help shape a bigger, more connected story world.